The federal government has set itself a lofty goal to move the country towards zero plastic waste. Today, Environment Minister Catherine McKenna took a step toward that goal in announcing a commitment to reuse and recycle at least 75% of all plastic garbage in government operations by 2030. Countries and businesses have been phasing out plastic. More than 8 million tons of plastic is dumped into our oceans every year. Right now in Canada, less than 11% of plastics are recycled, and much of the rest likely ends up here. One report anticipates that at this pace, there will be more plastics than fish in the ocean by 2050. But the U.S. and Japan haven't signed a G7 initiative on ocean plastics. So is there enough being done to combat the impact of plastic waste on the environment? I spoke with Catherine McKenna earlier this afternoon at the G7 Environment Summit in Halifax. I began by asking her how effective any ocean initiative on plastics can be without buy-in from the U.S. and Japan.
So look, we had a great meeting today pushing on the Oceans Plastics Charter. We had a number of other countries sign on. We have outreach countries. We decided that it was important to not just limit the G7 to G7 countries, but to bring countries from around the world. Norway signed on. We had Vietnam, Kenya, where we're hosting an ocean summit later this year. And we also had businesses. So businesses ranging from Unilever, Walmart, Coca-Cola. And so we all need to be working together. Look, the U.S. and Japan are still taking action on plastic pollution. They just have made the decision not to join our Oceans Plastics Charter. But it's really about the whole world coming together. And that's why I've been really focused on bringing it beyond the G7 countries and also bringing in business, because business actually realize that consumers are way ahead of them. They want to see action tackling plastics pollution, and business needs to be part of the solution.
How much of a solution can it be, though, overall, when you say like the whole world coming together without especially the U.S.? That is a huge market, a huge country. Obviously, you say that, this is a G7 initiative without them. Were you not able to convince them?
Well, I mean, the U.S. has taken a different tact. They've decided not to sign on. They've taken a different tact when it comes to climate action. But we're going to continue to act with folks that are, squarely with us, and that's why you have a bunch of American companies, including Walmart, Coca-Cola, and other companies that are working hard. And I think this is one initiative, but we need a whole variety of initiatives, and that's why in Canada we're working so hard. We also announced our Circular Economy Leadership Coalition. So these are real leaders from business. They're going to work with the federal government, but also we need to bring on provinces and cities, because the problem is it's multifaceted. We know, first of all, we have to, limit the use of single-use plastics. We need to make sure we're doing a better job recycling. So in Canada, we're actually not doing too bad compared to the world, but we're at 11%. We need to also be investing in supporting countries that really don't have proper waste management facilities. We know a lot of the plastic pollution is coming from rivers in a few developing countries, and so we stepped up. We announced $65 million working with the World Bank to leverage that money to support those countries. We need to invest in innovation. We announced our G7 Innovations Challenge. The US and Japan were part of that. So, you've got to take different approaches, but we're just going to keep on working with whomever wants to work with us. Because the problem
and you're not
huge.
afraid, Minister, though, of the impact of what you're trying to do being deflated by the fact that one of the world's biggest countries and biggest waste producers is not on board?
Look, I know that there are cities across the U.S. that are on board. There are states that are taking action on plastic pollution. Businesses, as I've already said, a bunch of American businesses support it. And the U.S. administration, I had a good conversation with the administrator Wheeler about marine litter, plastic pollution. They are taking action. They just decided not to sign on to the charter. But that doesn't mean you stop acting. My view is you got to keep on moving forward. You got to bring as many people as you can. You have to bring unusual suspects. So that's what we're going to continue doing, and we're going to continue pushing this. I'm really excited. We're hosting an Ocean Summit, a Blue Economy Summit with Kenya later this year. So Canada co-hosting in Africa, which is really important. And so you got to take a bunch of actions, and you're not always going to get everyone supporting everything you do, but that doesn't mean you stop, especially when you've got a problem as challenging as plastic pollution. Having more plastic pollution in the oceans by weight than fish by 2050 is completely unacceptable. It's unacceptable for me. It's unacceptable for the Prime Minister. It's unacceptable for Canadians.
Minister, you're in Halifax talking about creating jobs for a clean growth economy, but today the Ontario government tabled a bill to repeal the Green Energy Act because, according to Ontario's Auditor General, it didn't create the number of long-term jobs promised. Can you guarantee that your plan will be effective?
Look, I mean, I was here at the G7 with leading companies who were talking about the $26 trillion opportunity of clean growth. It is the biggest economic opportunity of this century. Mark Carney joined us, the governor of the Bank of England, talking about how we need to move forward on climate action, how Canada is smart taking these actions. And this is, they think that it'll create at least 25 million jobs. So even if you didn't really believe in climate action, just the economic case alone makes sense.
But on the economic case, in Ontario, the same case was made, the creation of 50,000 jobs. Instead, what happened, according to the AG, 31,000 jobs were created, and they were not long-term in nature.
Well, I mean, I can't comment on that actual report and everything that's there. I can just comment on what is going on in the world. So when I have leading businesses, when I have the governor of the Bank of England, when I have countries saying this is a huge economic opportunity, and don't forget, it's not just an economic opportunity, it's something we have to do to save our planet. I think that we're just going to continue moving forward. And these are the jobs that our youth want. These are the jobs that are in the long term going to ensure sustainable businesses. And unfortunately, I mean, we've seen this before. The Ford government's turning its back on any climate action, turning its back on economic opportunity of clean growth is exactly what happened in the Harper days.
Is it turning its back, though, if the evidence isn't there that the jobs will be created? I understand what you're saying about the people, the names that you mentioned, talking about the potential opportunity. But if that opportunity has not been realized in the past, in that specific case with the Ford government, is it really turning your back on something if it doesn't work?
It is absolutely clear, without a doubt, that that right now clean jobs are leading the way, that we have many, many more jobs, like, tens of times the number of jobs in renewables, in clean technologies than, for example, you have in coal. That the economic opportunity over the midterm and long term is obvious. That we're in a transition.
Is it obvious, though, that governments can realize those opportunities? I get what you're saying about opportunity.
You know what? It's obvious that you need to plan for the future. So we're still doing, we're still a natural resource-based economy, and I don't shy away from that. We will be in the future, but we know that the future needs to be cleaner. We have no choice. Climate change is real, but also that's where the jobs and the economic growth is going to be. And so we're going to do both. But it is unfortunate that there are governments, so the Ford government and working with Andrew Scheer, seem to think that the environment and the economy can't go together, and that you shouldn't take any action on climate change. When I talk to young people, they can't even imagine that there would be governments that wouldn't care about their future, that wouldn't see the impacts of climate change that Ontarians are feeling right now. And I've spent a lot of time in Ontario talking to Ontario hospitals, Ontario schools, Ontario businesses, Ontario cities, and Ontarians who want to take action on climate change. It's also a good way to save money by being more energy efficient, and who also understand that we have to do this to ensure a more sustainable future. So we're going to continue working with businesses, with hospitals, with schools, with Ontarians to make the transition to a cleaner future, to create good jobs, and also to make sure that we protect the only planet we have. That is what we need to do, and leadership is recognizing that it's hard to demonstrate the environment and the economy goes together, that you have to work at it every day, but we don't have a choice. And also, we want to create good jobs. We want to grow the economy, and we want to ensure a sustainable planet, and that's what we're going to continue doing.
But Minister, it's not just Andrew Scheer and Doug Ford saying that your thesis that the environment and the economy can go hand in hand isn't working. It's also somebody like David Suzuki, who called for you to resign because of that thesis. Has your message failed?
Well, no, I mean, I said I'm not a quitter. So it's easy to quit, and it's a lot harder to wake up every day and do things that matter for Canadians. Do things like, you know, we're transitioning to a cleaner future. So we're phasing out coal, but making sure we work with workers and communities to ensure that they have opportunities. Well, that's why we're putting a price on pollution across the country. I think it would be useful if we had environmentalists supporting that price on pollution
but they're saying it's hypocritical to put that price on pollution and then campaign for the pipeline to get built. And then people who want the pipeline to be built say that your policies on the other side have ensured that that pipeline is not getting built.
But I think that proves the point. We're in the middle. We're saying the environment and the economy go together.
Is the pipeline being built? Are we meeting our targets?
That's where Canadians. Yes, you know what? Last year, our emissions went down and our economy grew. That we've created with Canadians more than 500,000 jobs. That's more than under the Harper government over the same period. We're also doing big things to position our economy so that we have the jobs of today and the jobs of tomorrow. I have people attacking me on both sides. Environmentalists who you would think would support the hard work of moving to a cleaner economy, doing things like phasing out coal and putting a price on the pollution. And on the other side, I have folks who don't want us to do anything, who pretend that there's no crisis, that there's no climate change that we're seeing, because we need to move forward to a cleaner future, and we need to create good jobs for our kids and also ensure a more sustainable future.
Okay, I'm out of time. Thanks, Minister.
Thank you.